I know I've been on a Divorce Diaries rant for quite a while now, but I just want to take a break to just remind you about this podcast and how I record it. If you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, it's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need in one place. Let me explain. Anchor has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast everywhere. Seriously. On Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. And best of all, Anchor is totally free. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Again, that's anchor.fm to get started, or download the Anchor app.
This guy is nuts. Is he really making daily recordings of his possible divorce and releasing it as a podcast? They both cheated on each other? She's making six figures and still doesn't contribute to any joint endeavors financially? Why is she still with him? Why is he still with her? I can't wait for the next episode. This helped me be a better wife. So this is how men think. I hate my husband less now. I understand my wife more now. These are some of the listener comments to the Divorce Diaries podcast. All over the map, I know. These anonymous accounts of events should resonate with anyone that has been married, is married, or is preparing for marriage, and helps couples avoid pitfalls as they might prepare for marriage. Entire seasons are released on Patreon weeks before anywhere else. At Divorce Diaries Podcast Patreon page. Link in description. Now for today's episode.
There are cracks and there are chasms in every relationship. That's what I'm finding. I am recording the Divorce Diaries podcast from a place of happiness and peace and not anger, like I did my first bunch of episodes that I took down. Crying and complaining like a little bitch was not the way that I should have moved, but I did. And in my emotional outbursts and rants, it just made me darker, more toxic to everyone that was around me. It's like I kept reliving all of the horrible things that happened in my marriage that I either perpetrated myself or that my wife did to me or whatever. And recording those podcasts in that way with that spirit, it just really, it's not helpful. And what I'm learning in this divorce right now is the more time and distance I put between me and my triggers, the further I am away from actually firing that gun. Like, being so close to my trigger, and one of my triggers is my wife. We're just very different people with very different ideals, mindsets, and morals. We're just different. And we're so different that I don't know where or how I maybe trigger her, but I'll just say, like, she triggers me. I can definitely say that. Without a shadow of a doubt, my wife triggers me. And the more time I spend in proximity with my wife, the closer and closer and closer I am to pulling a trigger on that emotional gun that I have. And I don't know how it'll manifest. Yelling, frustration, storming out, crying, sadness, reaching out to other people, having an affair, overspending, underspending, losing weight, gaining weight, not going to the gym. I don't know. But I've pulled the quote-unquote trigger so many different times. I've fired my gun, I should say, or my gun has been fired so many times because of the proximity and frequency I have just putting my finger on the trigger. Just being triggered. Now, do I have to do a lot of work to figure out, like, what is triggering you? Why are you triggered? Should you be triggered? Get it together. Get yourself together. Yes. And I'm in therapy now, and I'm doing all of that work and unpacking a bunch of stuff and trying to make sense of things. And it's going okay. It's actually going really well, I think. And my therapist today, she says to me, you're very easy to work with because you're very self-aware and you are basically an open book, sort of. You don't seem to be hiding things, because in every one of these stories you tell me the bad thing that you did, and you tell me what else happened, and it all sort of makes sense. And it brings me to today's diary entry topic. It's the cracks and the chasms. And you're going to break relationships. I've broken them, and I've put cracks in them. And if you just imagine, like, some glass, especially that tempered glass that like cars windshields are made out of, usually you can't penetrate the car glass with a weak swing of a hammer. It will crack it, and the glass will splinter. But the glass has this like protective film on it and all this other stuff where the glass is made to shatter into small, not super sharp pieces, but it's also has that little sticky film on it or something like that to keep those shards intact, so that it kind of dents in, but it doesn't like shatter like some crazy horror movie where all these shards of glass come toward you and you just like you get impaled. You don't die from the car crash, but you die from the cracks and the shards of glass that come out. So there are cracks that I've put in every one of my relationships, and everyone actually puts in their relationship. And then there's the chasms. You can either add cracks, or you can make chasms wider and wider and wider by, you know what? This person hurt me. Crack. We'll call it a crack. They, told me something they shouldn't have, or that I didn't agree with. And now I'm going to block that person. I'm going to go into my contact list. I'm going to find the contact, and I'm going to say, block this person. Well, that then creates a chasm, because that was a crack before. And now, because of your handling of the situation, it's now a chasm. And there's almost no way for that person to even be able to send an "I'm sorry" text, "I love you" text, possibly even an email if you block that person from your email. It becomes impossible, because if there's like a crack, I don't know if anyone saw The Land Before Time. That's one of my favorite movies, and it talks about the Big Bang at the beginning, is what they sort of allude to, and the young dinosaurs, they're all separated from their parents because of this crack. And some of the kids, they make it as the world is splitting in two because of the big, whatever, the Pangea, the big crack in the ground, and volcanoes erupting and all the lava and everything. As the earth is splitting, some of the kids, when the crack starts, they jump to the side that the parents are on. The crack gets to be a wider crack. More of the kids can jump over and make it to their families. The crack becomes an even wider crack. And some jump over, but they barely make it. And then the cracks, actually, they begin to grow to something that they can no longer jump. And it starts to move from a crack to a chasm, where it's like, well, I can't jump over there now. And the movie Land Before Time is basically based on all these little dinosaurs that are like separated from their parents. And they're trying to find their way around so they can meet their parents in what is known as the Great Valley. And where the salvation is, where they can be reunited. And it took them a really long time. I mean, I don't know, the movie was like an hour and 41 minutes. It took them an hour and 41 minutes to actually make their way around to the Great Valley to meet their parents. And they were reunited. Spoiler alert. If you don't know this movie from 25 years ago or whatever, maybe more. Oh man, it might be like 30, 35 years ago. Holy crap. I don't know when The Land Before Time came out, but great movie. I recommend it to everyone, kids and adults alike. One of the movies that still makes me cry at a scene. I'm not going to tell you what it is. No spoilers there. So our relationships are just like that. It's like, you've got to provide people grace. yeah, they cracked, and they might crack over and over and over and over again, crack the foundation of your relationship. But it's a personal choice. If you're
She's a
going
runner,
to,
she's a track star.
sorry, phone call. Yeah, the it's up to you. It's a personal choice of yours to now say, I'm going to now create a chasm between us. And honestly speaking, you may have to. We may become so hurt, so cracked that we feel that we can't come back from this. And that may be true. Like there may be like aggressive, egregious things that have happened and you just can't forgive. And a chasm is what's needed. A chasm, a boundary. You need it. But what I'm noticing is that's not normally the case. What I'm noticing is there are cracks and people create chasms from that make relationships unable to repair or be healed. And I know when there are a lot of cracks and or something shatters, picking it back up, it's like it's gonna be, if that Ming vase like breaks, trying to salvage it, it's one, it's impossible. Two, if the pieces are big enough, you can try to glue them back together and the vase will never be what it was. The structure is compromised. You're going to see like glue spots. Maybe if it can be sanded down, okay, and then you'd have to repaint it again and smooth it. I don't know. But to even make it look like it used to. And that might be good enough for some people, the perception of how it looks. That may be good. If it's in a museum and it's just behind this glass and no one ever touches it, that's great. But you'll always know this shattered, we put it back together, and you might be able to look at it and say, this shattered, but we put it back together. And you feel better about fixing the relationship you had, even though you know it's not the same relationship. It's not even close. But there's no hope for that if there's a chasm. If that vase breaks into big pieces, but someone sweeps it up and throws it in the garbage and throws a couple of heavy things on it and shatters it even further, they've just lengthened the amount of time that it will take to find every other small piece. And they, in a sense, created a chasm. And you won't be able to jump in it. It's going to take you way longer to get around it. And I've created a bunch of cracks in a bunch of relationships in my life. For my wife, I've hurt her. And I put a lot of chasms in our relationship that it's going to be really, really difficult for her to come back from. And I had to be honest with myself, and even how I speak, like just right now. My wife has put a lot of cracks and chasms into our relationship as well. And I think at this point, the sheer number of cracks and chasms is just too much now. I don't believe this is something that we're going to come back from, nor should we. I believe the possibility and potential of repair for my wife and I is gone, because I believe the will is gone now. I have accepted like my wife for who she is. And she's a really sweet person. She's good, and she's helped me through some of the hardest times in my life. Being really physically just, oh my gosh, like I could never repay this woman for the things that she did and is still even open to doing for me. Amazing. I probably never will find another person to do that. But my wife is also a person that right now, well, no, that talks about me behind my back to other people. I'm not saying that because I want to drag her over the coals or anything like that. But we got to break that down a little bit. And I'm in a marriage with a person.
She's a runner. She's a track.
Sorry, another interruption. But there are good people in this world. That was a great phone call from a good person, which I enjoyed. But back to what I was saying, my wife is very, she talks about me behind my back. And when you think about that, and you go back to what I said about triggers, I don't know of any particular spouse that would be happy to know that their spouse talks to other people about things that they would like held in confidence behind their back. And there was, without me being angry like I was before, it wasn't so hurtful to find out that my wife was maybe having communications with her mom and sibling. Okay, that's your mom and sibling, and we're going through a tough time, and we all need outlets. Finding out that my wife, when we would leave marital counseling, that she would call the person she was having an affair with and talk to him minutes after we would leave our marital counseling session, one would deduce that she was sharing very, very intimate things that I discussed with her and a therapist in a confidential setting with him. And there were times, admittedly, where I was crying in there, and I was hurt, and I was wounded, and I was also being lied to because I didn't know she was necessarily having an affair. It hadn't been confirmed. So to know that any details of our session were being shared were very, very hurtful. And I believe that one thing that was said to me was, I don't care, it's my session too. I can talk to whoever I want about whatever I want. And I probably should have understood then that I should have accepted, really, the fact that I'm not the priority I feel I need to be for this person, or I'm not protected in the ways that I feel I should be by this person, and which is what is actually making this divorce much easier for me now. Accepting reality on reality's terms. And yeah, there are other things that are quote unquote deal breakers maybe, but being married to a person that talks about you behind your back to other people, and it did hurt when I read some things that my wife was sending to my son saying that, I'm finally going to leave him, referring to me as a him. And just knowing that she was talking to him and saying, as soon as you get your realtor license, I'm going to buy my condo from you. I'll be your first customer, and I'm finally going to leave him. Yes, there are ups and there are downs. But I guess the sanctity, the barrier, the boundary that I would like, maybe it's just not there with this person. I may feel different if my wife did just come to me and she's like, I'm so sorry. I've really betrayed your trust, and I understand that. I accept it. I'm so sorry. And I'm going to do my best. I'm going to keep my mouth shut. I'm never going to talk about me and you again to anyone else. It's me and you, kid, till death do us part. Maybe I feel different. I won't hold my breath for that day. It took about 5 years for me to get an apology that I felt she meant when she had her affair. That just happened just about a week and a half ago. I got a heartfelt apology from what she did 5 years ago, and I didn't even know it was 5 years ago. I lost track because it felt like yesterday, because I never felt that I got an apology from her. Every apology was, well, I did it because you did this to me, and I did that because you did that to me. And this last apology was, oh my gosh, it was just total accountable to her. But yeah, I don't know if that's short-lived or what, but that has obviously caused some significant issues between us. And we, man, I now understand that I guess I do. I have deal breakers. And I guess vows aren't enough. I guess vows can be enough when they're mutual. And each person might say, like, yeah, I broke this vow, but I'm sorry, and I'm going to try not to break it again. I broke this vow, but, like, fuck, I'm sorry. I hate that I broke that vow. I justified things that I did. I'm sorry, that was fucked up of me. But when you have the person that is like, yeah, I broke that vow, but so what? I only broke that vow because you did this, or I only broke that vow because you did that. And who knows? Maybe I did that over some years, and maybe I created more chasms. I don't know. I can't remember it all from her or me. To her, to me. I can't remember it all. I just know it's a lot. And a lot of this marriage has been a dumpster fire. And it's feeling really good. Because I feel like I'm moving towards something. Not like before. I felt like I'm walking away from something and I'm losing something. What I'm feeling now is, man, I'm walking toward a life that might be healthy for me, that I've never experienced. I've never lived by myself. I never got to know me. I just always fought through life with, against, for my wife. And she fought through life with, against, and for me at times. I definitely believe the bones are there, but I think the motivation and effort is probably gone.
Wow, that was the Divorce Diaries podcast. The Daily Saga will continue tomorrow. The full season's episodes are on Patreon now. Subscribe for early access. Click the Patreon link in the description. Hopefully these entries help our anonymous recorder as a form of his own personal therapy. That's his hope and his intention. Will these recordings of life's curveballs lead this family to the best resolution in the end? We'll keep listening. New episodes are released daily on all podcast players, but all episodes are available on Patreon at Divorce Diaries Podcast Patreon page. Until next time.